What's up, 316 family? It's your boy and your girl,
Good morning.
Pastor Cam, Pastor Steph here, and welcome to the Pastor's Corner. Today we're going to have a specific conversation which is the focus of grace and truth. You know, 316 Church family, we desire to be a place of grace and truth. It's a slogan, but it's much more than that. It's actually something that gives identity and gives us boundaries of the way how we do life here at the 316 Church, a place of grace and truth. Where do we get that from? I'm so glad that you asked. It comes from 1 John verse 17. I'm just going to pull it up. It says this. It says, "For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." Grace and truth comes through Jesus. And this is this great picture that Jesus was not just all grace. He was not just all about the truth, but he was this combination of both grace and truth, kind of like peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other to make a great sandwich, but grace and truth, the person of Jesus. Go ahead.
I love so much the idea of grace and truth. It really intrigues me. I find it so interesting because I feel like the grace and truth is like this ocean of deep, deep waters. Like we could never fully discover what it means. But in order to try to find out what it means, I think we really have to look at the life of Jesus, you know, and I get so fascinated studying his life, what he did, how he lived, how he spoke, what he didn't say. You know, Jesus was so wise. He didn't react the way that we react. You know, he always responded with such a calculated response. He usually paused quite a bit before saying anything. Nothing at all seemed to ever ruffle his feathers, you know, like the way that we get worked up about things. Like you couldn't rile him up almost through the day to day, the big sins that everyone else would freak out about. You know, he was like this unbothered. It didn't do any of those things, and Jesus had such a way of being the perfect embodiment of what it means to operate in grace and truth. I also don't see Jesus anywhere in the Gospels. He doesn't flatter people and over exaggerate things and tell them how great and wonderful they are. Yet he doesn't have a critical spirit about him either at all. You know, he's not critical. He doesn't have a critical eye. He just like he speaks truth all the time, and he says it even rather plainly, but he does it with such a heart of compassion and love.
Yeah.
You can't help but just listen and take notice to the way that he did these things. And I love the idea of being a community of grace and truth so much, because we have all, or even if you have or you haven't, we all have an idea through Scripture of who God is or what we've been told He is, or even we could read one Scripture and build a whole doctrine around it. But without looking at the life of Jesus, we can't do that. Like Jesus was the fulfillment of the law. He was the fulfillment of all Scripture. So in order to know what grace and truth is, we really have to study the life that Jesus lived.
Yeah, we really do. I'm thinking about the one time that that we all know, where Jesus got probably the most riled up. And you look at the money changers who are selling in front of the temple, and these are actually temple workers selling and trying to make a profit off the festival or off the religious. And Jesus gets such a righteous anger, we even see him flip it over tables. But his anger, notice his anger is about the religious, or those who are supposed to be spiritual, or those who are supposed to be representing Yahweh, taking advantage of the people. And he gets angry and frustrated about that. I mean, there's something true about that, because that's not a true representation of who he is, and he does not like for people, for others to manipulate him to be something that he's not and to be taking advantage of people. I mean, there's such truth there. But then you see where people are struggling with sin and struggling with kind of the worst sin. We look at the woman who was caught in adultery. We look at the woman who had over 5 husbands. And the way he deals with them isn't flipping over the tables or with rage and anger. He's like, no, I know my purpose. I came for those who are sick. I came for the lost. And I came to bring them. And the scripture says that he was full of grace and truth. He says the law came from Moses, but I come to bring grace and truth. Grace and truth. And Jesus can't be anything except that. And so I love that picture, that what you said, Stephanie, about that we can't just take scriptures without looking at the life of Jesus, because that is so key and so important. So how do we create a grace and truth environment here at the 316? How do we do that? How will we work hard to do that?
Well, we take a lot of the key principles in the Bible about forgiveness, holding our tongue, turning the other cheek, reciprocating grace. Like, those are Bible principles that we all live by, but it's easy to throw those out. I think the only thing that separates communities from healthy, unhealthy, or grace and truth communities to those that aren't is people who are actually committed and willing to do the hard work. And the hard work is laying down our differences, covering over with letting love cover the things that we don't agree on, choosing the love that Jesus lived and the heart that he had for others. Like, I think the only way we accomplish it is by sitting with this book in our laps open day after day, gazing into the face of God, and asking and yearning and longing for more revelation of who he is. I mean, I don't know if it can be done any other way. I think there are so many temptations and so much room to fall short there. But I think what marks really, really great communities are people who are willing to run after the heart of Jesus.
That's beautiful. I think I agree with you 100%. And a lot of times when people say, you're a church of grace, they feel like it's going to just be fluffy fluff and there's no truth there. But you can have both. You don't have to separate them. We can't get caught up in a box that they need to be separated. Like, oh, it's grace over here. Oh, they speak the truth over here. But that's only a part. If you only have full grace, that's only a half. You're only getting a part of Jesus. If you only have full truth, you're only getting a part of Jesus, and you're not getting the complete fullness of who Jesus is. And so we can have full grace and also speak truth. And that's truth and love. And grace and truth can go hand in hand, and they can't be intertwined. Sometimes we think we could pull them apart, but no, the scripture says that they're intertwined. You can't see where one starts and one ends. Let me finish with this verse right here to hold on to for the rest of it. It's the same chapter, but a few verses up. John chapter 1, verse 14 says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." Grace and truth is who Jesus is. It is who he displays every single day. In all his words, he's full of grace and truth. Well, that's it for this time of Pastor Corner. Remember, this isn't where a conversation ends, but it's where a conversation begins. Hope to see you next week. Holla at your boy! I'm turning 40.